Hey everybody, welcome to Rick Snider's Washington on YouTube, where you get the whole story. So please like, share, subscribe, comment, and hit the thanks button. That's a dollar sign. And I'm just getting ready to post something here for you, but welcome to the show again. We actually tried to do one. Hey, Steve, you're already here. Steve, where were you on Thanksgiving, Steve, when I needed you? Because I said, hey, we'll watch the game together, hang out, see what happens. And nobody came, pretty much, including Steve, who's never missed a minute of the Monday night shows. Well, anyway, um, it more people watched it on replay that day, so it worked out. Oh yeah, family. All right, sure, sure. Bunch of Cowboy fans. So anyway, we're back at the usual Monday night. I just thought I'd try a game. I realized it probably wasn't a good idea, although Thanksgiving game was probably a poor idea versus a regular game. So who knows? Maybe we'll do it again sometime, but we'll see. Oh, Daniel, thank you for coming. So we'll see how it works out. I know everybody's starting to wind down on the season, given the season is winding down on them. I actually wrote a long story today on Odyssey.com, which is 1067 The Fan, AUDACY. And I wrote a 1,000 word column, which I don't do very often anymore, about how all the coaches left here since winning the last Super Bowl. And there have been 11 coaches since they won the last Super Bowl: Washington Commanders, Washington Redskins. And two of them were interim coaches who weren't retained. Two of them uh, left on their own. That was Steve Spurrier and Joe Gibbs the second time. Hi, Antoinette. And Spurrier called from the golf course to say, I've decided I'm not coming back. We all knew that. And Gibbs, of course, retired for a second time. And the other seven were fired. So what's Ron's walking the mile. It's been walked many times before him on there. Braden, yeah, it was a good Thanksgiving. Spent time with the kids and grandkids, so it's always good. The chances of Washington beating Miami, slim and none. Slim left town a while ago. I don't see it. Don't see it. I think it's going to be another ugly one, and then they get to go on a bye for a week. The great Jim Zorn, Sam, they tried to force him out. Snider tried to force out several of his old coaches because he didn't want to pay severance. And there's a lot of stuff that goes on now with severance packages. You are required to at least go look for work. You can't just go sit on the beach and collect checks. You have to pretend. It's sort of like unemployment, I guess. If you go into the media, coaches, that money is subtracted from whatever the owner would owe you. Or if you take a job on somebody else's staff, that money. So basically, working for free because you get paid anyway by Snider. But that's the rules anymore, mostly. Depends on each contract's a little different. It's not standard. Mr. TMR, thank you for coming. And happy holidays, everybody. I like to say Christmas. I'm not afraid to do it. I have four grandkids. Three of them are in elementary school. One's in preschool. And last week I said, you guys got any kind of like Thanksgiving play or something, with the pilgrims, all that stuff? They had no idea what I was talking about. And I'm like, pilgrims, they don't do that anymore. I asked my daughters, I said, hey, are we going to have a Christmas show with the kids or something at school? Nope, don't say that anymore. Country's going to hell when you're afraid to talk about Christmas. But the cool thing is my grandkids are all in that prime Santa Claus age, so it's been some fun already. Singing Christmas. I hadn't sang some of these Christmas carols in forever. You know, not the one about Barney is dead. I barbecued his head. God, that's still on my head after all these years. So, gonna have some fun the next month with all the grandkids. They'll probably bankrupt me. Who do I want to see as the next GM, Scott? I don't know. I'm too tired to think about it. I'm sorry. I just am. We'll get to it. And we'll get to it, and then I'll think about it. But no. So I don't know what you guys did on your first weekend off of no Commanders football in a while, but my wife had me put up a Christmas tree and spent all most of the weekend working around the house on things. So I was like, isn't there a game on? I did watch the Philly Buffalo game for a little while. That was a great game. Philly's tough, and Buffalo, Buffalo could get in the playoffs. That's a team you really fear, but I don't know if they'll get there. Denver's coming up now for that playoff spot. Leaf Erickson for Columbus. Yep, that's right, Daniel. I don't have a problem with that. Oh, Steve, you went to see Napoleon. What'd you think? I needed more cannons. A little bit too much love story. I like my dictators to fight. They had a couple good battle scenes, but one like Gladiator or something like that. Well, Abe's here. Is the season dampening your spirit on coming back next year? I don't know, Abe. That's a good question, isn't it? I don't think it'd be that so much as if I decide to retire or not, but whether what else I want to do. Um, I'm in my 60s and I've done this a long time, and I just kind of say, "Gee, do you want to stick around another year and see what the new thing is? Maybe some new hope. Do you want to walk away then?" I don't know. We'll see. I'll think about it in February. But if my wife and I decide she's retiring, we decide we want to go do other things in life. I have some passion projects I'd like to work on. This stuff I just type out like a monkey, man. I can type this sleeping because I've done it for so long. We'll see. Yeah, Steve, I agree with you about the dark part of the movie in terms of physically dark, not just, evil thing. It was kind of hard to see at times, but a couple good battle scenes, but I didn't know much about Napoleon, but I walked away saying it was good, but it wasn't great. I thought the Hunger Games, I saw that movie too. I thought that was very in keeping with the Hunger Games, as it usually goes, the other movies. I thought they did a good job with that. Uh, and my wife made me go to What Happens Next or something like that. What it's called, Meg Ryan movie. Don't go see that. I just did a meme, didn't I? And you guys are going to put that out there. Thanks. If Justin Fields is cut loose, would Washington be interested? Non-revisionist. I don't think so. Now, here's the thing. Right now, they have a number 5 pick in the draft. Who you want? I mean, I know we all want to say offensive tackle, but suppose there's a quarterback and he's a lot better than Sam. I mean, I think Sam has proven what I thought he would be, which is decent. Not great, but decent. That was my projection on him. I think he's kind of proven that. So you might, if is there a quarterback you want to upgrade? I mean, I'm not sold on the Southern Cal guy in the pros. I'm not sold on him at all. So I don't know. I mean, suppose they take a defensive end. Are you guys going to go nuts because you just got rid of 2 defensive ends? You could have kept them and used this pick for something else. I think offensive tackle is a good way to go there if you can. Okay, Abe, thank you so much. I appreciate the hitting the thanks button. See, everybody, this is how it works. Abe, hit that $sign. We're friends for life. But yeah, snowblower gas money. I guess I don't have a snow. Well, yes, I do. I do have an electric snowblower. Doesn't really do much. I've never had a whole lot of driveway. Now I do, and so I probably will need one or something, or just say screw it and stay home. Mark Murphy, the GM from Green Bay, coming here. Asked Joel. I remember Mark playing here, and he's had a good career in Green Bay. Well, why would he want to come here? I know that it was put out yesterday on CBS that Washington has become the favorite destination for GMs. People want to come here because new owner, so the old smell is out of the building now. They've got some money. They got a lot of cap room. They got a lot of draft picks. Yeah, I would say that. I mean, Josh Harris hasn't done anything to scare me about being an owner. So I can see would certainly be a much better situation. And you want to go coach down Carolina or be a GM? Good luck with that. He's getting last picks. I mean, so much now that old players are now saying they want to be the next Jeff Saturday and come coach. That's ridiculous. And we saw what happened with Jeff Saturday. We always talk about replacing coaches in midseason. You get one good game, and they did. They won Jeff Saturday's debut, and then they lost the next 7. I think Bill Callahan did okay in the beginning. He went 3-8. I think he was like 3-1 or something. They hit a sweet spot, and then they lost out. But it usually doesn't work. That's why Ron will be here. Ron's going to call defensive plays. He said that today. Ron's presser today, he did say Emmanuel Forbes has a significant elbow injury. So happened late night. And they're waiting for the docs and all that. If I'm guessing, I don't think Forbes plays again this season. Just a guess. But he ain't going to play this week. I know that. Significant. What's that mean to his elbow? I don't know. They won't. Ron's never good at explaining things like that. And also, Ron said he thought Sadiq Charles might come back, but he didn't say it in so many words. But basically, he intimated, is there a place for him? Because maybe Chris Paul is playing well and playing better than Sadiq was. So I never got the big thing about Sadiq. I never thought he was really the guy. That was the only real news that came out here. And then Rod said he's going to try and do some things so that the defensive tackles can get more single blockers instead of being double blocked or double teamed. And he's talking about Payne and Allen. He said they've been getting too much doubles, and that's why they haven't done as much. Well, where you been all season if you've seen that? You can't just say, well, I wanted to tell Jack, but he was out to lunch. I left him a note. To say something like that. Brian also said he wouldn't be playing reserves just to go see what these new guys can do. He's going to play who he's got, which is what coaches do anyway. Abe said MetLife was ranked the worst by players, worse than FedEx. I think FedEx was the next one. So I have a 2-minute video tomorrow morning where we talk about the worst teams in December over the last 10 years. Washiington Commanders are not number one, but they're right in the conversation. So watch the video tomorrow morning. I think Louis Riddick might take the new GM. That'd be interesting, Todd. I mean, he knows, well, everybody he knew here is gone, down to the secretaries, or administrative assistants, whatever we call people now. So there's going to be a blood there. I mean, certainly Riddick's, has a good reputation. It's a possibility, I would say. Any truth to report that players complained to Ron about EB a second time, David said. I don't think there's really a formal second time complaint in this. It's just, and I think it's whiny. It's losing that brings this kind of talk up. Nothing wrong with EB. Yes, he's hard on him. He wants to win. Sorry if that offends you. Go win. He'll be nicer. That's his job. He's doing his job. I don't have a problem with EB. I'm not saying I want him to be the next head coach, but this stuff about EB is too hard on people, whatever, wah. Sam, could you address people who don't seem to understand that picking a left tackle outside of the first round generally is not happening? You're not going to get anybody really good. I mean, a second round guy, I think was Joe Patton a second round guy or a third? I think Joe Patton was a second round guy. You can remember him in the mid 90s. I like Joe. He's a good guy. Passed away, I believe, a couple years ago. I was really surprised. Good guy. But that's what a second round one looks like. You're not going to be as happy. If you can get a stud offensive tackle, the best guy on the board at 5, take him. Take him because you're going to need him. Will Fuller be back his age next season? Brandon wants to know. I think if the price is right, yes. But price is going to be less than it is now. Got to take a cut. CJ Fool's around. Thank you, CJ. Lewis is my uncle. Just kidding. Okay. A non-revisionist. Any idea how large the new stadium will be? I think it's going to be in the 60 to 70,000 range. That's just they haven't quite gotten down to that yet. Scott, do I think Jason Wright is gone after the season? I would think probably yes. Eric, remember when we were 2-0? No, Eric, I can't remember back that far. Remember when they were 3-0 in the preseason? I mean, people ask me, has the season been easier? Well, sold the team, went 3-0 in the preseason, 2-0 in the regular season. Yeah, life was fun for about 2 months there. And then reality came back. but I don't know. I'm so used to these seasons, it doesn't faze me much. But I think it's a 4-13 year. I don't see them winning again. I mean, they could, but won't win more than one. I don't think so. Joel's draft next year, 3 offensive linemen and corner, safety, defensive end. The problem is there are people who say, I'd take offensive linemen in the first 3 rounds, which is not what you're saying, but now you have to, you take your best shot in the first and second round for more need and then keep going for better players. You're going to need better players. Dan Quinn, Angelo, hadn't heard that name. I don't think so. 2 coaches have been fired from Carolina. Yeah, White Rabbit, man, Ron was asked about it today, and he basically said, not my place to talk about this. I'm leaving. See ya. Do I think Carolina will hire Belichick? I don't think so, Antoinette. I don't think he'd go there. Spider Monkey. Jason Ray probably hiding somewhere. Okay, be nice about this. Uh, Jason's working hard. Abe, August, September. Ah, those were the days. Yeah, I'm old enough to remember those. Mr. TMR. It's starting to get cold here in Washington. I hate cold weather. I hate hot weather. So I like the spring and fall. Let's see. Mr. TMR. Apologies if you mentioned this before. What options do the Commanders have with the FedEx lease expiring in 26? They have the right to keep staying there for as long as they want, but the terms do change because now PG County, which is the county the stadium's in, has more power over the situation, and so it's not as financially good for the team to stay. That's why they want to get out. Now they're not going to make it. Um, they're not going to make it. So they'll have to probably put a couple years in there. But yeah, that's a problem. But nobody's going to fix up anything either. It's just going to fall apart. Daniel wishes they bring back Taylor. Yeah, that ain't happening. Sam, of the 5 picks in the first 3 rounds, how many do you think will be immediate starters? I would say better have 3 of them. You would think so. And, enough of this development players early round. Like you say, Dotson. Dotson's a decent player. I don't have a lot of problems with Dotson. Jamin Davis finally is up to something, but wasn't worth where they took him. Neither is Forbes. Need a fast tight end. Yeah, a lot of people were talking about tight ends, Larry. And but you got to get the ball out. The last game or two they regressed from this quick offense that they had used, to try to win a game, and then they went back to a lot of what they did before. And I was like, what? Oh, you meant Josh Stockton? Okay, Sam. Okay, yeah, you're right on that one. So I'm gonna do the commercial time. Commanders Post. If you would like to subscribe to this nice, tabloid magazine that we put out a bunch of times a year, and there's stories and pictures, and me and several other guys are still writing for. I've written for it for 30 years. I'll put it in the chat box here. The website you can go to and sign up. And we could use your help because, print's dying. But you guys will like the magazine. I mean, it used to be called Warpath for many years. And before that was Redskins Review. Snider made us change the name on his copyright stuff, which was BS, but the owners didn't want to pay for lawyers. So they switched to Warpath. So, yeah, it's an actual newspaper, man. It's got, paper and ink. Ooh, there's my column. So, yeah, it's, if you like to go to the website there, sign up. It's a great Christmas present for somebody. If you can't figure out when am I going to get this guy, give him that. Or you can get him one of my books. Hold on a second. Let me go get this. Oh, let's see. You think I'd be more prepared? All right. You think I'd be more prepared, but I'm not. Okay, so here we go. Double fisted. It used to be the 100 things Redskins fans should know and do before they die, but it's now the 100 things Commanders fan. The difference? This one's updated. Got 5 new stories in it to replace some old ones. That's basically it. And all those 95 stories are the same. I just updated some things. So either of them you can get at Amazon. Okay. You can probably only get this one. No, you might get this one new. You can get it cheaper too, used, but I don't make any money on that. Or this one came out last year. So if they change the name again, I mean, when I do a third version, yeah, if the publisher wants to keep paying me, he can. So next week I might talk about selling a few here online. I don't know, maybe not. But anyway, that's great Christmas presents too. You need me to hold these up again? Yeah, okay. A buddy of mine wrote a George Allen book. It just came out. These are like 15, something like that, $13 each. The George Allen one was 40. I was like, wow, $40 for a book. I mean, it's 500 pages and it's got a lot of good stuff in it. So if you like George Allen, go look for that online. Okay, can I do chatting twice a week? No, Joel. I barely can do it once a week. I'm getting tired as it is. And I need you guys to hit the thanks button more to help reward me for my time. Hate to sound like a whore, but let's be honest. I'm doing this just for you guys. Don't have to. So if you hit the thanks button, I do appreciate it. In about a week or two, I'll do another one of my charity ones where all the money goes to a toy drive for Christmas. We did one for food drive for Thanksgiving, and we raised $150. That was great. I mean, just for doing this, hey, put food on the table. So we'll probably do that in a week or two. And the last home game, the last home game before Christmas is a week before Christmas, I think. And that's when Toys for Tots at the stadium. If you go there, I usually just donate money to them. Let's see, Daniel. Let's see. If we ask you, and I'm not sure we are, but if we do ask you, you think you need to pick up a new coach? Yes. One that hasn't been around since the rule changes. Well, okay. I would like to see I'd like to see the next Gibbs, wouldn't we all? But let me put it. But the dynamic is Gibbs was 41, offensive coordinator, came here. That's what I'm kind of looking for. Show me a guy somewhere between 35, 45, young, new ideas, a Sean McVay, that kind of thing, and like Gibbs. Now, Gibbs started 0-5, and Cook was going to fire Beathard for bringing this coach in. They hid from him for 2 weeks, but it worked out. You know, I saw coach's birthday was the other day. I think he's in his 80s now. But that's who I'd like to see. I don't want to see Belichick. I don't want to see, Jim Harbaugh would be interesting, but there's no baggage. Man, can we go 5 minutes without baggage with this organization? So any players be cap cuts, Scott? I don't think so. Mostly because cap cuts are often, because you're strapped and they're 90 million under the cap next year. That doesn't mean they won't try and, resolve some prices, but I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah, Daniel says they can't coach like the rules of today. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. What about McVay? So McVay has to be, let go from the Rams, Todd. So that's the first thing. And the OC from the Eagles, I have to really stare at him hard. I know he's on a radar. I'm not saying their radar, but maybe. Angela, thank you so much for kicking in. I do appreciate it. Harris's philosophy compared to Carolina. Well, I think the Carolina guy is much more involved with worrying about the day to day on the team, like Snider. And I would tell these guys to get the hell out of the football side and go back to the business side, because unless you played the game, unless you were like Al Davis, who was actually in the league, or Carolina's old owner, like those guys, okay, they can at least have an opinion on things. Otherwise, go back to the business side because that's where you're from. Do I trust Harris? Yeah, I think so. Harris seems like a decent guy. As I suspected, we really haven't seen him much because he is a boardroom, kind of guy. That doesn't mean he throws, eggs out at me if I walk near him. But, Dan Snyder, oh man, Dan Snyder was so bad when he came. I loved tormenting him. When he'd have the limo come pull him up, and I'd be asking him questions as he walked to the limo. But what he really hated was I'd step between him and the door. When he got in, he couldn't close the door. And I keep asking him questions. He's like, Rick, get out of the way. I'm like, oh, anyway, man. So I would keep badgering him. Sometimes I did it for fun because he never answered anything. Mr. TMR, Warriors or Red Wolves fans for a third book? If I had to pick, I would pick Warriors. And I think Warriors is not just an American Indian thing. We've had warriors since we've had people with spears and rocks, throughout time on this planet. So I don't think it's talking about that. I think when Warriors, I think it's a generic name. Everybody's a warrior at times. Plus that great movie from the 70s. It was Warriors Come Out and Play. I love that movie. It's creepy. It was a creepy voice, but I love that movie. Do I think Josh Harris is going to be Danny Boy spending money in free agency? Well, not to the extent Dan did in his early years, Joel. But really, if you look at Dan Snyder, I would say the first half he spent money really recklessly, and then Bruce came along and actually pulled him back to the point that they didn't spend nearly as much money as they could have at times in recent years, especially this offseason because he was going to sell the team. So Danny's reputation is kind of outlasted the truth of it. But that said, I think Josh would probably say, 2 or 3 guys maybe you can spend some real money on because, they have a $6 billion mortgage, kind of thing. I mean, it's not all mortgage, but plus you got to save some money for a stadium and, it's expensive. Let's see. You can't have all visiting fans paying for everything. Let's see. This week is Miami. We'll be interested to see how many Miami fans come. But I've seen Miami fans this season on the road have traveled well. So I have a feeling the Dolphins are going to bring a big crowd. How many people are coming from the Commander side? I don't think a whole lot. And then San Francisco's a home game. So is Dallas. I don't know about the 49ers so much, but Dallas we know. So, I mean, that means they have won the stadium maybe twice this season, maybe three times in the end. Does Harris have the money to do a rebuild? Greg wants to know. Yeah, I think so. I haven't seen any problems there yet. Haven't heard any whispers in the wind about money problems at all. Where do I think the next headquarters practice will be? Asked Matthew. Could the location be near the stadium? Well, they talked about it. I think the stadium will be announced within a year. I think it's a possibility the practice facility is with it. Depends on what that venue requires from this either Maryland or DC or Virginia. What are they asking for? And you would like you would like your practice facility near the stadium in the same state or district because the players live near it and then they're paying income tax. And there's a lot of money on it, like a $200 million payroll brings a lot of taxes. So, but then again, Maryland already gets it anyway in some respects because um, there's a new tricky thing the states have done for now 20 years, I guess. Oh, you played here, you worked here that day, so we get to tax your money. And then so you have to pay. Say you play in LA, you got to pay California state taxes on that money you earn that game check. But the one good thing is reciprocity. Let's say you live in Virginia, reciprocity has that money funneled into what you owe in the end. So you're not really losing any money. You're not losing any money. The state is when they let the other states grab it. But you grab theirs, they grab yours. So I don't know. Right now I think they're looking to build another. They're definitely looking to build another practice facility in the next 2-3 years. And this one is, they've had this one since '92. So that's what 31 years. I mean, they were at the old Redskin Park about 20. So but if somebody plays hardball and they really got to do a stadium somewhere else, I could see it move. But they're not looking to do it voluntarily. I don't believe the Belichick noise, Ronald. I don't see it. There's a lot of trial balloons that are put out there. Just like somebody today was talking about Belichick may be going to Carolina, and no way in hell that Belichick's going to go work for an owner like that. Daniel, my mortgage doubled. Why? What'd you do? Is Doug Williams still in the front office, Joel? I don't believe so. I think he's more of a consultant kind of thing. Steve Spurrier was a genius. Danny Boy moved. Robert said, no, it was a disaster, dude. It was a disaster on so many levels. One, Dan paid him $5 million a year when most coaches were getting like one or two. Man, that made every owner in the league was mad at Dan because he just increased their payroll because their coaches were like, this guy's not hadn't been in the league 5 minutes. I want money like that. It cost everybody. There's no cap on coaching costs, so everybody had to pony up a few million more for their staffs, and they were mad at Dan. That was just the beginning. But Steve just wanted to run his offense in the NFL. I was a beat writer when Steve was around, and he just cared about the offense. Didn't even know the defense's name. He gave that to Marvin Lewis to worry about it. It was just a clown show, a clown show. So I didn't dislike Steve, but I always laughed. The one thing I had a heart attack the week of his first game. I was at Redskin Park. Massive heart attack. Had to miss 3 weeks. I come back. He's like, where you been? Where have I been? You know where I've been. I had the heart attack in the lobby of this place. I'm sure you heard. And so that Saturday when I'm there, he's changing to Danny Werfel. And I just asked him, why are you changing to Werfel? Figuring he'd say, hey, it gives us the best chance to win or whatever. He tears into me, hard about it. I'm the ball coach. Don't be second guessing me. And walked away, took about 10 steps, and then I give him credit. He turned around and apologized to me. And I said, Steve, I just survived a heart attack that kills 19 or 20 men. You really think I give a damn what you think? And we both laughed, and we never held a grudge about it on either side. But ball coach was ridiculous. I'd say even worse than the Jim Zorn era because Zorn didn't know any better. Spurrier just didn't care. He was in total denial. The funniest thing Spurrier said was when he was leaving, he was checking about going back to Florida. And the Florida AD hated Spurrier and didn't want him back. And he said, well, you have to submit your resume. And Spurrier told him, go down to the trophy case and look, you'll see my name. I thought that was really funny. Yes, Robert, I was in that game. I was at the game in Japan, the Osaka game. I guess I'm the last guy around that was on that trip. Oh, no, Bram Weinstein, who does the play-by-play, was also on the plane. Yeah, and he really ticked off people because he was crowing about it. He won with third stringers there. It was just ridiculous. Joel, yeah, I was just writing about Jim Zorn. It's in my column on Odyssey.com if you want to go look at that. AUDACY. Odyssey.com is 1067 The Fan. And I wrote about all the coaches and what happened to each of them. And I talk about Zorn. I liked Zorn. He was sort of a Gil Thorpe kind of guy. Be old enough to know what that is. Cartoon character, comic strip character. And, real rah-rah good guy. He even created these things we call Z screens for players to stand under in training camp and get out of the sun. First time, only time I've ever seen that. And they did work. I used them one day when the players weren't around. But he was a good guy who didn't deserve to be the head coach. Didn't even know he was going to be head coach. Snider called him over to his house and said, "I need you to come over." And Zorn figures he wants to talk about the offense. And he gets there and says, "Hey, I want you to interview for head coach." And Zorn's like, "What?" And he said, "Well, I look like crap. Let me go home and take a shower and get my coat, my suit on," which he did. And he came back and they gave. You can't blame the man for saying yes to the opportunity, but woo, was that a bad decision? Clayton, yeah, Ron's is on a broken record about growth and development. He can't keep talking about this after 4 seasons. Yeah, he's still saying he's trying to learn what makes some of the defensive players, excel. After 4 years here, you don't know what your defensive players. He said that today. I was like, Lord, okay. Spurrier got rid of Stephen Davis. Well, I think Stephen's contract ran out, Robert. I'd have to go back and look. And they kind of thought Stephen had used up his time, but actually he had a couple good seasons down Carolina afterwards. I like Stephen. He was a good guy. Yeah, we always ask how his knee was, and you go, "How's your knee?" He hated talking about it. Like Jinx, good. How's your knee? if I didn't get to see him. He was at camp a year or two ago. I wanted to go over and see him. I couldn't spend the time. So I wanted to go, "Hey, Steven, how's your knee?" Just to ask. And he would always answer a question, most deaf. So I used to have side bets with other writers about who could make them say most deaf first. And we got to have our entertainment too. Joel, thank you so much for reading it. I do appreciate that. Gregory says, would I hire a GM before a coach or the other way? Oh, absolutely go GM first because he's the head. And you need some separation of state there. But you need people that can also work together. But, Harris doesn't know football personnel that well, and GM should know. Should be bringing the recommendations. Then it's up to Harris to decide which guy he wants. Now, Bedford didn't do that. He just hired Gibbs and told Cook, this is who I hired. And Cook was like, oh, all right, whatever. And at 0-3, he said, who the hell did you hire? And he said, you lose next week, I'm firing you both. And they did lose the next week, and they hid from Cook. And then they lost the next week, and they really hid from Cook. And then it all worked out. Why didn't Jack Del Rio blitz more, Robert? Boy, that is the question of the ages, dude. I really wonder, too. I guess he thought they couldn't get home, and then the secondary was truly vulnerable. They were vulnerable anyway. Sam's, the true Spurrier refused to put in NFL hours. He would usually show up around 9, drove a Buick, which we always laughed about because Redskin coaches back then always had a deal with this Cadillac place. And he said, well, this is the Cadillac of Florida. And I thought, okay, I won't argue with that. Have you seen what Buicks look like now? They look nice. Or maybe I'm old enough to drive one. I don't know. My car's got 260,000 miles. I need to buy a new one eventually. And I looked at the Buicks and thought, these are nice, but maybe that's just an old man speaking now. But totally different cars. But anyway, he'd show up around 9. He'd leave around 6. He usually get 9. A lot of times he got 9 holes in before showing up. Here's the problem with Spurrier. Spurrier's skill set worked great in college, did not work in the pros. His skill set was recruiting. More or less, you don't have to do that in the pros. Maybe one free agent, you know, but it worked in college. Great with alumni and donors. Don't have that either, really. I mean, you could go up to the owner's suite afterwards and be nice, but those were his skill sets, and they worked very well in college, but in the pros it didn't. And he just too obsessed with the passing game to try and make it work. You think EB's obsessed with passing game? Try Spurrier. He was ridiculous about it. I'd ask Spurrier about a defensive line question, and he'd go, "You don't think my passing game can work in the NFL?" I was kind of talking about the defensive tackle at the time, but okay. And then he would lecture about that. Oh, it's like Ron pulled the same thing off a couple weeks ago. They asked about the D line. He says, "We got a great promising young quarterback." Wait a minute, we're talking about the D line. So, Matrix, okay, right? Do most GMs simply hire who they know or who actually thinks the best? A little both. Kind of just depends. Um, so I'd say sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. Zorn Greg Williams move. Tia Morrow. Snider didn't hire Greg Williams because he was intimidated by him. That's Greg with two G's. The second G was for genius. That's what we always said. So yeah, that's why Greg didn't get it because he intimidated the guy too much. Um, Joel says they were scared to blitz because they didn't want another roughing the passer. Take your chances on that one. Let's see. Robert, great show. Well, thank you. Rigo mentioned Washington Tomahawks. No, you can't do that. That's an Indian thing. No, the Tomahawks. The Hawks, if that's not a problem, I go with that. Sam, I'm glad you enjoyed the Spurrier stories. There's still a lot to talk about with Spurrier ball coach, but that's another day, I guess. Don, is Ball, Jurgensen, or Riggins the greatest Redskin player ever? Well, Sonny says it's Ball, so I have to go with what Sonny says. And Ball was great because he played three positions and he was great. As a punter, he averaged one season 50 yards, and that thing was a medicine ball back then. You know, he was a great corner, and then he was a great quarterback. You know, changed the game. So I would say Ball. You know, Rigo was a big deal, but Rigo changed the NFL. No, Ball did. And Sonny still has a record for 30 touchdown passes in a single season. I don't know if Sam will get to that or not. Maybe he's got extra. Sonny did it in 14 games. So let's see, Joe. I wonder what happened. Greg Williams never coached after Gibbs retired. No, I think he did coach elsewhere. I think he's still in the league. I just don't remember where offhand. Clayton. I'd like someone like Kellen Moore for OC. I've heard the name. I mean, you guys are getting hard on EB all of a sudden. Everybody yelled at me for being hard on EB early. I think he's done an okay job. Now it's up to the next. I would not want to saddle the next head coach if it's not EB, and I don't think it will be. But I would not want to say you have to take this guy as your offensive coordinator. I think you have to give the coach his chance, and maybe he would take EB. I don't know. We'll just see. Let's see. 70 Chip. Any good stories on the late Bobby Mitchell? Seemed to be a down to earth guy. He was. One thing I liked about Bobby was like their community relations guy for many years. If you listen to Bobby speak, which I did many times, he had that same cadence that Reverend Martin Luther King used to use. And it would kind of like rise it up. And then at the end of it, like King, I mean, I could there with you, but we will see the promise. It was kind of what Bobby was like speaking at the end of the game. Speech, you're ready to go. Yeah, let's go beat somebody. I mean, Bobby was really good at that. Really good at that. People liked Bobby an awful lot. And they respected that he had to come in and be one of the three. There were three players that year, black players. And we always debated who was the first black player. Well, they did draft Ernie Davis and they had to sign him, and trade him. Was he the first? But never played. And then there were two other gentlemen on that first game. One of them was on the kickoff return. So was he the first one? And then Bobby and a guard from another team who was traded to Washington went out together. So I don't know, but it's splitting hairs. But people respected the stuff Bobby had to go through. And he had to go through a lot of discrimination. Williams is with the DC Defenders. There you go. Thank you, Scott. I knew he was around. I just couldn't remember where. How about Johnson from the Lions? Well, yeah, Robert. I think Ben is certainly. And now I don't know what Ben thinks, and maybe Ben wants to go elsewhere. You know, um, that's happened to Washington many a time. They looked for a guy, and the guy decided he didn't want to come here. But that was Snider. So we'll see what the new one's like. I mean, if you really want a guy, to me, you bring Magic Johnson in to close the deal. Everyone's going to want to play for Magic. So that's what I would do with Magic. I know Magic, you're a basketball guy, but come on in. You give the pep talk. You can close this deal for us. I think it would work. Um, I think he's certainly somebody you want to consider. Gregory thinks EB deserves an interview. I agree, he deserves an interview. And then I think you have to respect that the owner gets to pick who he wants on it. So we'll see. I like EB. I like EB. I criticize his rough language in front of young fans. That's the only criticism I have had of EB. Except, yes, you got to quit throwing the ball 3 times as much in certain situations. But that's just normal football second guessing. But I don't have a problem with EB in some respects. If he was head coach, I don't know if he's ready for it yet, but if he is, it certainly would be interesting. I'll give him that. Do I think Dak will crumble in the playoffs like the past? Asked Sam. Well, takes a village. He's got to have some help around him. Dak's a good quarterback. I'm not sure he's a great quarterback, but he's a good one. He's better than anything we've had here. William Gladden. Greg Williams was the interim coach when Hugh Jackson was let go from Cleveland. Yeah, I remember that. So, Greg's bounced around the league a lot. I like Greg. Greg was a Buddy Ryan disciple. And I remember early times, Greg saw that I wrote a story about Buddy Ryan one day. I went to Kentucky. Buddy was retired from football. He was owning racehorses, thoroughbreds in Louisville area. I went down to the barn to see Buddy. And it's 7 a.m. My photographer's just bitching at me about why are we here so early? And I'm like, I covered horse racing for 5 years early in my life. So this is what we do in horse racing. You're here at 5 a.m. normally. We came at 7 when the dawn came up. And Buddy said, "Hey, we got a few things to do before I can sit down and talk to you. Come on, help." He gave me a horse to walk. I call it hot walking. You walk them around the barn to cool them off. So I did that for a little bit. I grew up around horses, wasn't afraid to. And then he said, "Hey, we got a foal being birthed. Come on over." I didn't have to help. I have done that in my life. It's gross. I was 15 when I helped foal my first horse. I hadn't even had sex yet, and it's gross. And then Buddy says, "We got a gelding to do." I thought, I'm not helping with that. But after all that, we sat down in the barn for a few hours. And I liked Buddy, and we talked about the fight he had with Kevin McBride, and he was ready for round 2. He said, he's looking for you. He says, "I'm here." He was ready to go. So he was a real tough guy, and that's where Greg got a lot of that from. Robert, is the rumor true that Washington got rid of Champ because his wife confronted him about things? Nah, I don't think so. I don't want to discuss Champ's personal life on that, but I like Champ a lot. Smooth guy. I've heard those rumors, and that's all about that. Sergeant Ward, is that Sergeant Ward, Daddy 13. Finally made a live chat. Thanks to you. Thanks for coming. So always appreciate new people that could use it. We had a pretty decent crowd tonight. I heard a lot of great things about Adam Peters of the 49ers, the 70 chip. I have 2. I think he would be somebody on your list. You're writing down like 5 names. Ralph had the farm in Kentucky. I like the Cooks. They were interesting, more or less. Easier to deal with than Snider. Steve, thank you for chipping in. Do appreciate it. See everybody. That's how you do it. You hit that $, and it's the way of Rick saying, "Yay!" So Rick can always use the money. Christmas is coming. I got 4 grandkids. Which press conference answer is more fun? You play to win the game or the playoffs? Playoffs. Because it sounds like a chicken. Playoffs? Playoffs? Yeah. Sam, horse racing. Yeah. Your dad used to read Shirley Povich. I knew Shirley a little. Knew him last few years of his life. Shirley used to come to the racetrack when I was covering horses in the 80s. And my my desk was right by a big TV. And Shirley and his brother used to come use my desk to eat lunch until I chased him away. And I'm like, Shirley's a legend, but I was just a young punk. Today, I would have shared my big desk with him, but back then I was just like, Shirley, get off my desk. And he would. He was a gentleman about it. I probably should have been a little more deferential to him, but newspaper work is for the rough people. You don't get any good in this business unless you're ready to kick somebody else's butt. Not that I'd have kicked Shirley's butt, but I'm not touching old, guys 40 years older. Now that I'm the old guy, I hope the young ones wouldn't either. Most of the young reporters treat me well. I can't complain. They don't necessarily know who I am, but but they treat me with respect, and I do, and I respect them back for that. One rule change should be allowed the kickoff team to advance and fumble. Yeah, oh yeah, Robert. I mean, they had a touchdown in the end zone on that play where Seattle fumbled the kickoff and Washington grabbed it. Then they said you can't advance it, and I don't think they scored or they got a field goal, one or the other. It was a chance to put a dagger in Seattle. That was the Sean Taylor season when he passed away, and that kind of took some air out of him. Yeah, so Sergeant Ward saw a new cook. I guess you're talking about Jack, right? Um, yeah, Jack was a big horse guy. He loved horses. Wanted to win the Kentucky Derby. I was after the Super Bowl. Cook wanted to win the Kentucky Derby, but he only had one horse that was halfway decent over the years, and I think he finished 10th. Ran down the track. Cook loved that horse, so ran him in the Breeders' Cup too, and that didn't go very well either. Todd, remember Buddy Ryan when you were a kid? Yeah, I mean, one time we don't do them anymore, but we used to have conference calls with the opposing coaches every Wednesday. So Buddy came on, being a real pistol. He answered, I think, one question. It was maybe a 30-second. Normally these things are like 10 minutes. It was maybe 30 seconds, click. That was it. He didn't have much time for us. Scott, playoffs or Dennis Green's? They are where we thought we were. I think Denny Green's one. I think is better. They are what we thought they were, whatever it was. And I think it's a very true statement too. That you are pretty much what you think you are. The records tend to find where you should be. Uh, Whatever happened to Marlene Cook? Don Allen asked. Met somebody about a year ago who told me that he had to do some landscaping work on her place in Great Falls, Virginia, which isn't that far from Redskin Park or the city. It's kind of like half between the city and Redskin Park. So that was the first time I've heard about her in a while. Guillermo de Leon, thank you so much, Guillermo. Appreciate it. Um, Always appreciate fans. Well, I have a number of Spanish speaking fans too that I see the translations. Here on YouTube, you can switch the language and do subtitles and stuff. So I do know a bunch of people, uh, you know, Spanish people or Latinos are following us, and I do appreciate it very much. Sergeant Ward, what year would you consider your favorite year for our team? As in the most complete roster that didn't make the playoffs? Ooh, that's hard because my favorite team would be the '91 team. Somebody asked me about that before. Maybe because I covered that team some. Although the '83 team with Rigo and all the Hogs were just getting going and all was interesting. Joel, is John Cook still in DC? We live in Middleburg, which is, I don't know, an hour outside of DC. That's where Jack lived too. John lives out there. Has a winery on it. Never been to it though. Haven't been invited. It didn't end with great feelings on John Cook and I, because when he was trying to buy the team, I figured out it was a false bid. He wasn't happy with me. All right, Ron and EB are ride or die on Sam's shoulders, Clayton says. Well, that's true, but you can't ask this kid to do everything. The defense could use a Daryl Green for DBs, but great players are not necessarily wanting to be coaches. Coaching's a lot of work, man. You got to work 80, 100 hours a week in the pros. And if you're a rich guy, you don't really want to do that. I mean, I give Ryan Kerrigan credit for that. Ryan doesn't have to work another day in his life, and he's got, I think, 3 young kids. But he's there. I guess if they change coaching staffs, Ryan will be a casualty there, and that'd be a shame. Brian's a great guy on there. All right, so we got about 10 minutes to go. So Sam was a young punk watching the 91 team. I appreciate that. Why is Art Monk never mentioned among the greats? Probably because Art Monk never talked to the media much, and that certainly is part of it. And I know you want to go, it's not fair. Whatever. Art would talk to us once in a blue moon, and he would whisper like this. You could barely hear what he had to say. Yeah, you couldn't hear that, could you? That was Art. Yeah, he did it on purpose because when he went to the Jets, he was Mr. Microphone. So I know he could do it. He just didn't want to. Yeah, I got a job to do just like him. But today's players understand the media so much better than years ago because they know we got a job to do. It's a symbiotic relationship. Hey, you be nice to us. We tend to be nice to you. We're all human beings here. But they understand the power of the press much more in the old days. I think we get treated better. Doesn't mean they kiss our butt. It just means that they're not telling us to F off all the time, like many a player told me. Why did George Allen dislike Sonny so much? Man, that's a great question, Robert. I think it's just, well, Sonny was getting older. There's no doubt of that. But and Billy did a decent job. I think it was that Sonny was there before him and part of the old regime, and coaches don't always want the old guys; they want their own guy. I think that's part of it. But Sonny was so good, he couldn't get rid of him, so he had to bear it. Is there a chance EB and Ron could ruin Sam for the future? Asked Llewellyn. Um, no, I don't think so. He's held up pretty well in all this. I think he's okay. Sam, Art stuck with the media. Yeah, I mean, he just didn't want to. So nowadays, Art's got some health issues, and so we don't really see him very much at all at all these events. So it's not like he can come back and kick in his reputation a little more if he wanted. Rigo came around last home game. I like this Legends thing to bringing him back, but he wanted to just talk about USO. That's what his wife was being honored for that involvement. So he didn't really want to get into other stuff. Daryl was here about a month ago, and he talked about whatever, but mostly about the old days. And the funny part is, I covered Daryl for 10 years. We're the same age. Daryl's the only phone number of an ex-player I have in my phone. I have him in my computer, but on my phone. I don't talk to Daryl that often, but we do now and then. And because we're the same age and everything, we understood each other better. I mean, what's not to like about Daryl? Matter of fact, I have that in here. Is that in here? Let's see. I'm looking at the command post paper because I show it again because a lot of people come through the show and last like 10, 15 minutes. So maybe you weren't around last time I was talking about this. But here it is. I took that picture of Daryl. I'm on the next to him. There's Chick on the one side. I was on the other. So if you want to do command post, I'll do the commercial again. So this comes out a handful of times a year, and it's all about the Commanders. It's a great Christmas present. Let me put the URL here in the chat for you. If you'd like to go to the website and see what it's all about, there it is. And not that expensive, and it's a great Christmas present for somebody. Big fan. Oh, you want Daryl's number? Okay, hold on a second, Steve. Let me get it later for you. Let's see. I know Daryl. I stand next to Daryl when he said this, Clayton. He said 10 minutes to get Forbes right, and he showed us that you can't see this anywhere else, but he showed like a video he had of Emmanuel, and he's like, look at his body, look where he's turned, look where he's. And I'm sure those things would be great to pass on. I don't think he's actually done it though. Oh, Steve, Daryl's number is 28. So what can I say? I'm not giving you Daryl's number. Daryl kill me. So people do that. A lot of times people will call, hey, do you have a number of these old players? I have to think about it. And it's like, there's always a rule. You didn't get it from me. I don't know. And if I don't like the writer or don't know them, I won't give it to them. Do I follow college football? Yeah, not really, Todd. A little, but Saturdays tended to be my freer day from Redskins Commanders. So sometimes I had to work in the morning and then I'd be done. And last thing I want to do on my little time off is watch more football. So a little bit. I watched Maryland games a little. I did see some of Michigan, Ohio State. It was a good game. I watched a little bit of it, but if you're telling me, like I was over at my father-in-law's and he watches anything. He was like, "Hey, the Tulane Bowling Green game's on." I'm like, "What? Tulane Bowling Green? What are you watching this for?" Well, he's in his 80s and doesn't have much to do, so he watches football. So, let's see, Mr. Tiamara, thinking, wish Joe Gibbs had a larger coaching tree. Yeah, I mean, there was a little bit. Russ Grimm did get to be a head coach in the end out of it, and offensive line coach. I can't think of his name. You all know who I'm talking about, the head hog. He had some, but it didn't really. But the thing is, Joe's staff pretty much all stayed with him the 12 years together, and then he kind of aged out by the end of it. I mean, Pettibone was the head coach for a year. He didn't really want to be, but Gibbs suddenly retired in March that first time, and there's a lot of thought that he did that to protect his coaching staff and tell Cook, well, there's really nobody else you can get, so why don't you have Richie stay, be the head coach, and have everybody else already here. I think that was a way of keeping them together a little longer. That's what it's always been the talk. Ball guy. Well, the ball guy's back. Do you think Jack Del Rio will be fired after the Dolphins game? No, because he was fired after the Cowboys game. Favorite road stadium city to visit, Scott. Loved going to Phoenix. Just being out in the West like that, so different than the East Coast. They used to have the games on the Arizona State campus, so you'd see a lot of pretty people walk by. I always enjoyed that. It was just a cool venue. It was an old stadium, but I liked the area. I haven't been to the new one, but the area was just fun to be around. So I always liked Arizona, and then I'd take the red eye back, stop in Vegas, be there a couple hours, waiting to change planes, take the red eye back, go play some slots and stuff, and all that. That's one of them. I mean, there's a lot of great places to visit. Miami's awesome. Um, Seattle was interesting, but so far away. You know, um, I love San Francisco. Usually, the West Coast trips are the ones the writers go out early, like go out Saturday morning. A lot of times, if it was like something close, like Chicago, I'd go Saturday night so I could spend more time with my kids during the day Saturday. But West Coast, San Francisco, get a whole day out there. Maybe the new DC should eat some of the smooth sweet potato pie to get right. I haven't had any smooth sweet potato pie, but I do like sweet potato pie. I like pumpkin better. Only had one slice, and it was all gone. I got a Costco one, which are like this big, for $6, and everybody ate it. So, and then I had to go watch the game, so I didn't get a chance to goof off much. Cypherx, do you think GM Ryan Poles would be a decent fit here? The Bears? And then I think at the Bears, it makes me say, let's do it. So I don't know about that. But I don't know him personally. Mr. Cool, then, what's the number one weakness that's hurting our team? Drafts, probably. Off season, believe it or not. I mean, poor free agency spending, that definitely has hurt them. The drafts have not been that good overall on there. I'd say that's, off season like that, definitely they needed a better one that last few years. So I don't know if that's the number one reason necessarily, but yeah. I mean, on the field, the secondary can't, man up with anybody. Yes, Gregory says, do you think we should even look at candidates from the NFC East? Yeah, I don't know if there's anybody in Dallas or New York staff, although Wink Martindale might come loose. What we hear, they're not getting along according to the national guys. But I take Wink Martindale, we're not his head coach. And as far as if you're talking about front office, I don't think that'll happen. Would Joe Jacoby make the Hall of Fame? Robert asked. I think he will in the next 5 years. I think it'll finally be apparent that this has really been stupid that Joe wasn't in. Cyphers, I've got the last couple minutes here. So Cyphers, if we release Leno, our cap should be roughly 98.6. Okay, I added it with that, but okay, it's a lot of money. Doesn't mean you spend it all. Doesn't mean you spend it wisely. So be careful about that. Mr. Cool. And maybe you keep Leno and move him to the right side. I'd say that. Never give up. Looks like Hal may end up possibly breaking Kirk's single season passing record of 49 yards, 4,900 yards. Maybe. I mean, as much as they're throwing the ball, so would that make him the greatest passer here? No. That's where stats tell you one thing, ball playing's another. Just shows you when you throw the ball 50 times a game in 17 games, you can get that many. Should McLaurin be featured more? Well, nothing to do with your money. Money, that doesn't decide anything, Sam. But he is their best receiver. So, but the other team takes him out of plays at times. So that's one reason why. And this offense was trying to gear itself up to this quick strike more to the ends and such. So that's what happens there. All right. An hour, and that hour goes by quick. I'm always amazed I can talk for the hour straight. A lot of great questions tonight. A lot of people came. Definitely appreciate it. If you watched this if you got to the show late, you want to see earlier parts, it is, give it a few minutes and YouTube will have the whole thing ready to go again. You can watch whatever you want. And I do see it often, and more people watch on replay than watch live. So, Steve, thank you for coming. Haven't missed a minute all season. Appreciate it. We only have a few more Mondays to go. Let's see, after Miami, I'll do that one. Bye week, I don't know. I may take the week off. I even did the show when we had COVID going on. I didn't know I had COVID. I just thought I had some kind of bad cold. You might remember I sounded like a frog. Turned out it was COVID. And only for a couple of days, but I got through that, luckily, knock on wood. So I got to go get another COVID shot. I don't want to get into everybody's arguments about that, but be well. Let me just say that. Do make smart choices. Turn out the light party's over. That's right, Don Meredith. Never got to meet him. Met Howard Cosell once, briefly. It was interesting. So run, and Clay wants to just run the ball. Go play the games. You got the whole story, Cypher? All right. Well, I told some good stories tonight. Sometimes I feel like I tell them all the time, and you guys just haven't heard them, I guess. But thank you all for coming. Am I coming back next year, Greg? I'd say probably, but not definitely. Got to see where my life takes me. And the wife's retiring. Maybe we're going to travel more. Maybe we just don't, I don't have to work anymore. It's kind of nice. Reached the retirement kind of age. I'm semi-retired. I only work 40 hours a week. Still working on the book about presidential drinking. Now hoping it's out for St. Patrick's Day and the whole year of presidents and stuff. It's going to be a good book about funny presidents drinking stories. You'll enjoy it. Then I'm going to try and work on I've written a play about something I'd like to try and see if I can get it to the stage. It's probably, who knows. So, I got things in my life I want to do besides work, especially covering a crummy team. But will they be crummy next year? It's going to take a couple of years to kind of work through whoever's coming in. But maybe they can. We'll see. I'm not dying, so. The other day I was bored, and I didn't have anything to do, and I thought, you're bad at just sitting around. I was out working in the yard. It was raining outside yesterday, but it was lightly raining. But I was working in the yard, doing yard stuff. Just put a coat on. And it's how George Washington died, but whatever. I was just like, yeah, you just can't sit around and do nothing, which is what we're doing there. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, TMR. I used to work 80 hours a week. Then I had a heart attack, and I cut back to about 60 hours a week. Now I probably work about 40. But it's a lot of days I work a few hours. Like I had Saturday off to do the Christmas tree and all. My first full day off in 3 weeks. Sometimes I get a few videos ahead. Tomorrow morning's video, what team in the last 10 years has the fewest wins in December? And I'll give you a hint. It's not Washington, but boy, they're in that conversation real close. Just kind of, it will shock you. It shocked me how few games they've won in December over 10 years. Curtis, good to see you came on. So I'm glad you made it. Even though we're leaving now. But yeah, it'll be an interesting week. I think Miami's too much for them. Seasons of Discontent, my podcast with Matt, will be out tomorrow. Of course, I have the videos in the morning and evening. So there's always something to talk about. You know, football season's the easiest part of doing this. Doing the 6 months off season is the harder part. I have to think about what else to do. I do videos about other things occasionally. We'll see. If you're coming to town, you want to go on tour, I'm also a tour guide. Take people around and tell you all the gossip. All right, it's 9:04. I'm going tired. So, all right, thank you all for coming. Watch on replay if you like. Order Command Post if you like. It's right here. It's a good Christmas present for somebody. So we're trying to keep that. We're one of the last few publications alive in the NFL. Trying to keep going. I love this. Maybe this will make the marker. Either one of these, buy these for somebody at Christmas time. If you'd like a signed copy, DM me. I'll tell you how to get it. You have to Venmo me money. Maybe we'll talk about that next week. I don't know. I got a few extras I can sell if you really want it signed. I don't know why you would care, but whatever. And that's it. So I'm Rick Snider for Rick Snider's Washington. Thanks for coming. I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.